Most people think successful startups begin with genius ideas, right? You picture this lightning bolt of inspiration, a flawless business plan, and just a smooth, straight ride to $1 billion valuation. But look at the actual stories behind companies like PayPal, Flickr, and Twitter, and you're going to see a completely different pattern. So let's dive right into this explainer. We're going to uncover the hidden mechanism that repeatedly creates startup success, turning these complex founder stories into a simple, visual mental model you can actually use. So do these massive companies start with that one perfect, fully formed stroke of genius? Well, the short answer is absolutely not. When you look at the raw, unfiltered beginnings of world-changing companies, you don't find crystal clear foresight at all. What you find is a completely messy, chaotic process. The founders who actually win aren't necessarily the ones with the best initial concepts. They're just the ones who deploy a very specific way of thinking and operating when those first ideas inevitably hit a brick wall. And this brings us to a massive paradigm shift. The winners out there were not better at predicting the future. They were simply way better at learning from reality. The myth tells us that business is all about perfect prediction, right? Charting a 5-year plan and flawlessly executing it. But the reality of high-growth startups, it's all about continuous, rapid learning. These founders treat their ideas not as precious little gems to be protected, but as disposable hypotheses that just need to be tested. So the really crucial point here is that we can actually extract a replicable mental model from the early days of these companies. By looking at Jessica Livingston's incredible book, Founders at Work, we can analyze the raw stories of 24 different founders. And you know what? When you strip away the specific products and the different eras they launched in, you find this hidden engine. It's an underlying startup operating system that they all unconsciously used to navigate the chaos. Here is how we're going to break it down today. We'll start with the startup myth, then map out the founder operating system, look at 5 founder advantages, dive into the pivot principle, and finally wrap up with the founder mindset. All right, part 1, the startup myth. Ideas are hypotheses, and reality is the teacher. Paul Graham actually has this brilliant way of illustrating the disconnect here. He points out that the corporate world absolutely obsesses over appearances, wearing suits, sitting in very serious conference rooms, producing these massive, thick PowerPoint reports. But startups, they thrive in messy, high-performance reality. Real programming and real problem-solving don't usually happen in a suit at 2 p.m. They happen in a towel at 2 a.m. in an office that's just strewn with junk. The effort spent on looking like a traditional business literally destroys the raw productivity you need to build a new one. Because the true nature of early-stage reality is just pure chaos. Plans change constantly, resources are severely limited, and honestly, doubt is completely normal. What is so fascinating from these 24 stories is how unsure the founders actually were that they were onto something big. Many of these world-changing companies started almost by accident. The founders just started building, figuring it out through relentless trial and error. They didn't have a map, they just had a compass. Moving right along to part 2, the founder operating system, the iterative loop. Instead of that rigid, linear business plan, strong founders run this continuous cycle. They find a problem, they aggressively build a basic solution, and then they test it with real people. And based on what reality tells them, they pivot and iterate. Only after proving the concept do they actually try to grow and scale. It is a continuous, high-speed loop, and you just repeat this wildly until you hit the jackpot. And that jackpot actually has a name. The entire goal of this cycle is reaching product-market fit. It's the holy grail of this operating system. Now, product-market fit isn't about satisfying investors or looking smart in the press. It is guided purely by a deep, deep empathy for the users. It means watching real user behavior, ignoring abstract opinions, and obsessing over solving a real painful problem until the adoption of your product just begins to scale naturally. If your current project feels like you're pushing a massive boulder uphill, you probably haven't found this fit yet. Which brings us to part 3, 5 founder advantages, inputs for the system. Now, startup success stories aren't just isolated lucky breaks. Sure, timing and luck absolutely play a role, we can't deny that, but the founders who win deploy these repeated mechanisms of cause and effect. They share core, timeless principles that allow them to actually capitalize on that luck when it finally strikes. These 5 advantages are basically the fuel for the operating system. First, you need an intense problem focus, doing fewer things but doing them exceptionally well. Then you need deep empathy and user obsession to actually understand what people want. You also need rapid learning, treating literally every setback as a lesson. And above all else, resilience. Take Craigslist founder Craig Newmark, for example. He succeeded largely by being, in his own exact words, a persistent nerd. You have to be able to endure the incredible lows to keep this loop running. Let's look at how this plays out in part 4, the pivot principle, updating beliefs. Just consider this data for a second. It's wild. Katarina Fake's Flickr did not start out as a photo app. It was actually a massively multiplayer online game called Game Neverending. They just built a photo sharing tool as a side feature, noticed users absolutely loved it, and pivoted the entire company. Or look at Max Levchin's PayPal. It started as cryptography software, then became a way to beam IOUs between Palm Pilots, before famously surviving 6 different business plan changes to finally become the web-based payment giant we know today. No way, right? This brings up a realization from Max Levchin that proves a completely crucial point. Strong founders do not aggressively defend their initial ideas. Their ego just isn't tied to that first concept. Instead, they rapidly update their beliefs the second reality gives them new data. Levchin even noted that if PayPal's first idea didn't work out, they wouldn't have just given up. They would have simply iterated on the business model and done something else. The vehicle changes, but the drive remains exactly the same. All right, final section, part 5, the founder mindset, the underlying code. Running a startup requires immense mental fortitude. We're talking about a high tolerance for uncertainty, the ability to think in 10-year horizons, and just an ironclad stomach for handling rejection from investors, the press, and even your initial users. And the pain is very real. James Currier, the founder of Tickle, actually described waking up at 4 a.m. with his chest literally burning from the intense physical pain of fear, uncertainty, and the terrifying feeling of being in way, way over his head. That is the true emotional reality of running this system. But the founders who make it out the other side share one defining characteristic. Across all 24 stories in the source material, pure, unyielding determination was the single most common denominator. As Ron Gruner pointed out, things basically never work out right the first time. You always have to do it 2 or 3 times to get it right. That means your primary competitive advantage isn't your initial genius idea. It is your persistence. It's your willingness to just keep turning the crank of that operating system long after everyone else has packed up and gone home. So here's the bottom line. The best founders don't possess some magical crystal ball. They do not have all the answers on day one. Instead, they build adaptable systems, and they cultivate highly resilient mindsets that help them discover better answers over time. So as you take these mental models and apply them to your own projects, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. Are you expending all your energy trying to predict a perfect future, or are you building the operating system required to actually discover it?